to the Saturday show. Oh my, is my mic working?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
That is so weird. Okay, why? Oh, okay. Is that better?
It was the same.
Okay. So freaking weird. My mic like was showing that it was off, so I was like, uh-oh.
Huh.
Yeah, so weird. But anyway, yeah, welcome guys. So I have with me Ambika Devi. Thank you for joining us today. It's so good to see you. How are you?
Great.
I don't know what's going on with our thing here. Hang on
Am
a
I
second.
muted? What's going on?
No, I think
Okay.
it's just I can hear you good now. It was just can you guys hear us okay? Like is
Okay.
everything coming through? Or are we being a little bit off center
Yeah.
here? It's weird.
Yeah, what's going on? I found where I could mute myself, but I am not muted.
Okay, no, you're good. You're
So,
good. I think we're good now.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Hey, Catherine, how's it going?
It's going good. Let's try this again. Yay.
We're going to be one of those kind of shows.
It is. It might, you know what? It might be, and that's, it is what it is, right? Well, we'll
the
do
thing
what I
is,
can.
it's the weekend. It's Saturday. And did you get outside to play? Is it freezing cold there?
It's not freezing yet, but it is snowy. And this morning was pretty chill. I had to go out for a little bit, and then I've just decided to vegetate inside, and I'm good. I'm good where I am. It's getting chilly for sure. Gotta love Canada, right? Like, we can have honestly, like we could have a snowstorm today and it could be miserable and freezing and everything, and then tomorrow it could like all of it could melt, like, you know what I mean? It's just freak, like we get freak weather all the time.
Really? I wouldn't picture it like that where you are, because you're exactly where?
We're in Edmonton.
In Edmonton. Oh, Edmonton, right. I was thinking Calgary. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Well, I'm in Florida, and I'll tell you what, I like it when it gets a little cooler, and some years we don't really get, like a coolness that would feel almost autumn-like, which I think is gorgeous. And, or even, sometimes we'll get these cool breezes from the north. Because I'm not in the tropical zone, I'm in the subtropical zone. So,
right.
It's a little bit, come on, the weather changes here, but today was gorgeous. It was low 70s Fahrenheit. You'll have to translate to Celsius. And the sun was just beautiful. The light was beautiful. And I just recently got a new pair of roller skates from Moxie roller skates.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wrote astrology for them.
That is so cool.
And they sent me this totally pimped out set of purple Jack ones, and they have like sheepskin inside the tongues. It's just lush.
Yeah.
These skates, but they're really, stiff. It's going to take me a while to break in. So I thought I'll take them to a park. Not a skate park, like, just a walk around a lake park. And it was a little bumpy going because the wheels are much smaller than what I usually go outdoors with. But I needed to skate on them a little because I couldn't get them off the truck so I could switch wheels. So I kind of did it to myself, but here I am. I made it back. It was beautiful. And I met this woman named Maya who was jogging, and she just really wanted to talk and about the speed I could go in these tiny wheel skates. They're really more for like indoor and dancing, and they light up. They have multicolors and they light up.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
I mean, they're just too cool for anything. And so, I think I did a really good job today breaking them in. And Moxie's going to be having a new line come out that I wrote this for, but I happen to, we talk about intuition, right? Your show is Oracle Intuitions.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this chain of events It's the same thing, everybody. Like when you start seeing the same numbers on the
Like
clock.
synchronicity.
Yes, exactly. It's synchronicity. And I just got in this, or you could call it flow state. Some people call it flow state. And there's lots of names for it. Some people call it meditation. It's walking
Yeah,
around in the state of
absolutely.
meditation and choiceless awareness. But then I was led back to roller skating, having not done it for 15 years. And
That
I
is
bought
so
I bought
cool.
a pair of skates from this company. And then after skating in them for a week, I thought, okay, I want to change the bearings. I want to do something with the wheels, but when I bought them, I kind of had that in mind that I would change components if I really liked it. And these
Right.
would break in easy, that first pair. But then it was, they were like, I wanted some advice. I didn't know what was hot, what was new. I hadn't skated for so long. Everything changes in 15 years, with
Yeah.
companies and materials and things like that. So I made an appointment with them. They have this service that you can make an appointment with a skater from their team and ask them questions. So I made an appointment, but the person didn't show up. And then I wrote to customer service because I was sitting here waiting. It was like a 20-minute appointment and it was 15 minutes in and nobody showed up. And then and then customer service got right back to me and said, the owner of the company's here. Would you like to talk to her? She'd love to, make up for this. And we're refunding you right now because I paid for that appointment, for that consulting appointment. And I was like, are you sure? So I get on this Zoom call with her. She's super famous.
Oh,
She's unbelievable. Did I tell you about her before? I don't remember if we talked about this on the air before, but she was a stunt double in a Marvel movie.
oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, because the Joker's girlfriend roller skates.
Wait, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't I can't remember what her name is. I haven't really
All
watched
right,
that.
somebody in the chat, who's gonna who's going to figure that one out? So anyway, they had just talked about having this new line of skates, and wouldn't it be cool if we had an astrologer? And that's when I popped in this chance meeting.
That is so cool. See, and that's exactly how synchronicity works sometimes, right? Or like you said, in the flow, it's just taking that, opportunity. And it's funny because a lot of people don't, especially if you're in a funk, you don't see the opportunities or the things that come up. It's kind of like I've seen people, who are, let's say, in a place of being destitute or maybe not having money or whatever. And an opportunity will come towards them and they'll be like, oh, well, yeah, but I want this, 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 and this, and this. And it's like, okay, but at the same degree, which, there's that argument of, waiting for sometimes, the thing that you're exactly wanting. But there's also that sometimes taking this thing leads to that opportunity of what you're exactly wanting. Right. And so a lot of people will bypass those little things that come through. It's like, I need money right now to pay this. Okay, well, here I need a fence built. Oh yeah, but that, you know what, it's too much work for me, or it's like this, or it's like that, or, and they come up with these excuses because they're waiting for this huge lump sum or whatever it is, or maybe they don't want to put the work into it, or, whatever the excuse is at that particular time, right?
Yeah, well, everything's potential, right? So we could be at a point and we could say biorhythmically or astrologically or energetically that we're at the right place at the right time for abundance. Maybe
Oh,
that's a
absolutely.
moment. And maybe some people find some money on the ground and somebody else maybe wins a lottery ticket,
Yeah.
but it could be the same kind of potential. uh, the metaphor of using the lottery ticket is you have to put some energy out to get it back. It's like the joke of begging the saint, the statue of the saint, for a lottery ticket and the saint statue comes to life and says, for goodness sake, buy a ticket. You know, that you have to make a move, you have to project something. But I was in the right place at the right time. And then wait, there's more to this. Then I found out that there's an old Sears that went out of business near me. And they had a big auto department that had a giant flat floor that was perfectly level. And they're building a roller rink there. Like in my neighborhood.
Awesome, right? I just wanted to say to people, so anybody that's on the chat, I do appreciate you donating, putting giving us your questions. Make sure that we have all of your names. Give me some we don't need the whole breakdown of your relationship, but give us some insight. You know what I mean? Because we are on a chat. And, we need to have a little bit of, clarity as to what exactly we're looking into. But also, all the instructions are going across the screen. If you want a personal reading, you can reach Ambika at ambikadevi.com. If you would like a reading with me, you can reach me at oracleintuitions.com. All of the information is on both of our pages when you, if you do book a reading. So, but one of the things that I just want to make sure everybody knows, we don't read on health and legal issues. Okay. So those are things that we do stay away from because you know what? We don't play doctors or lawyers on TV. And, so, but those are just things that you should go to a professional for. And we were talking before the show. So you had mentioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind coming out today, right?
Well, it's the anniversary of the day it came out. Yeah. Oh, I just realized I didn't have my light on. Am I half in the dark? Maybe it was spookier that way. Yes, it's the anniversary of Close Encounters when it came out. And I remember going to see it. I remember when it first came out, and it was 1977, and I went to the movie theater to see it.
That's wild.
Wild. And it was one of those films that after it was over, I stayed and watched it another time.
So interesting enough, it's one of the shows that I've never seen. And I'll tell you why. So I've always had this, it's funny because, I was a paranormal investigator for years, and encountered hell of a lot of stuff, and that's okay. I'm good with that.
Okay, so everybody, you can point your ectoplasma away from her.
But I've always had, it's funny, I've always been, except for X-Files. I did love X-Files, I'm not going to lie. But I've always been a little bit, when it came to the alien stuff. For me, it was just a little bit too much or something. I don't know what it was. But I've always been like more the horror fan, like the ghouls and the, you give me a good stabbing or something like that, I'm right there, right? But
Gee, Catherine.
I know.
Wow,
I've always loved
a little intense.
I've loved the horror movie monsters, I guess is the best way to say it. But when it came to aliens, I think because ultimately in my own mind, I think this is the reason, is that in my own head, you can fight a monster. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't fight an alien. Because, aliens have, zap guns, and they got this. And, that's the way they were always portrayed, right? So, for me...
No, not at all. A lot of aliens do stuff almost like with their mind, like telekinetically. That's, I think you're...
I don't want anybody messing with my mind, though.
You're niching aliens into a very tight little spot. And as far as sci-fi writers or what's really happened to people, because there's Whitley Strieber, who is an author, and he wrote Communion and about his experience. And there's Travis Walton, whose story was made into a Hollywood movie called Fire in the Sky. And Travis, I've had the pleasure of meeting.
That's cool.
And yeah, so this is some serious encounter stuff. And that happened to be when I lived in Arizona. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of action out there. I used to go out to the hot springs outside of Phoenix, heading west, in a really beautiful part of the desert where you could find desert roses, from lightning strikes in the sand. You could find these really cool formations of quartz that got zapped. Pretty cool. And I saw things in the sky, Catherine. So there's a lot of action there. That night of the 7 lights over Phoenix, have you ever heard of that?
No.
The 7 lights over Phoenix. Okay, well, you're in Canada. It's okay. That news may not be traveling up there, but I happened to have an apartment at the time that had a patio, a balcony that faced north, and I was having a little get together, and we all saw it. But that was before. That was flip phones with no cameras.
Right. Yeah.
So we didn't get pictures, but you can look that up, the 7 lights over Phoenix. There were many strange things in the desert. And so I am fascinated with that. I've been a fan of coast to coast radio forever. So all kinds of phenomena. And I too have done my share of hunting around in haunted spaces with equipment, all kinds of equipment. Things that pick up frequencies, and you actually can start communicating. I've done a lot of that in Savannah, Georgia. There's some pretty serious haunted places there. And there's a lot. Those stories are in my first book. The main character in my first book, Lilith, has ghost stories from Savannah and from New Orleans. New Orleans comes alive for me. Have you ever been there?
No, it's actually one of the places that I would like to go to, but I have not been there at all. It is one of those bucket list type of places, though, that I would love to go and check
yeah, I've had some pretty amazing, crazy experiences there as well. Full of great historic ghost stories. And I mean, there's places you can walk in broad daylight where there's such a playful ghost there that she will actually take things and move them across the counter. It's a little shop, and you can get tea, and she'll laugh and touch your hair. And then, the Sorrel Weed House is one I've done a lot of hunting in with teams overnight and infrared and, and there's some really crazy stuff going on in that place. I've seen just flashes of the bottoms of British soldiers marching across the basement and out the wall. And there was a great battle in the area of the square just outside that house, which is like a park. Savannah is, all these square parks. It's beautiful. What a beautiful laid out city, what a beautiful, beautiful way to do it. It's a gorgeous place to walk around. I highly recommend Savannah, Georgia also. That's actually, they both have their stories and charms, but so there's even one more haunted, and that story is in Lilith. That I would not go in that house. That house is, I had so many visions. I actually touched that house, and if I was back there again, I would not have touched it.
Right.
It was so intense, Catherine, what I saw. And I had rapid 3 different stories from 3 different eras. And I had hired a pedicab. That's a bicycle cab with like a little cart, little taxi kind of thing, but, totally open. And I had asked him to take me around and show me different squares and tell me some stories. And then we got to talking about where I had traveled. I started telling him about New Orleans. His dad was from there. Then a ghost story came out. Then he, at a traffic light, he turns around and he says to me, "Do you want to see the most haunted house in Savannah?" And as we're taking off towards it, I'm saying, "No, not really."
No,
And we went there anyway. And I had these flashes of the three stories. And because I ran up, I ran up the steps to the landing, touched the house, ran back, told him this story, then another one, then ran around the back of the house, had a connection with the back of the house. And mind you, I was across a yard and there was a wall I was looking through, but totally another story poured out of me. Went back and grabbed some water and blessed it and washed him, and said, "How did I do?" And he said, "Not only did you nail the stories, you did it in the correct order."
Oh, that's cool. See? Yeah, it's amazing what can come through, when you're doing, either investigating or even, mediumship and stuff like that, right? I just, before we get going, I also just want to mention, if you are new to the channel or if you're watching on Facebook, all of the instructions on getting a reading are going across the screen. We truly appreciate you guys watching the show. I truly appreciate new subscribers. However, there is a donation process. And so, it's very, very clear as it's going across the screen. And so that is how you can receive a reading. Please make sure that you let me know that you have donated, just so I can verify. And, and then put your question down below. One of the other things I do is, if anybody's, if somebody like this is watching, if you are one of those that like to jump in on somebody else's live show or post or whatever and try to, message me for a personal reading type of person, you're blocked immediately. Okay, so I don't tolerate any of that shit. Just saying straight out. It's my show, not yours. You want your own show, you go start one. That's the way I look at it, right?
Yeah. And that's the end of you being invited to be a guest, likely.
What's that? Oh yeah, like I did. I have no tolerance for that.
No, that's so you don't poach. That's what happens is when you make an action like that, that's regrettable, you're fructifying a seed of karma. And then in the future, you're taking that and reseeding, and then it grows stronger. Be careful.
Yeah, well, there's just so many scammers and stuff like that. I want to tell you a story. This is my, I guess, alien type of story. Before I get into that, though, I also want to remind everybody, make sure you check out my other show. So I have another show as well. It's called I Want to Believe. It's on the I Want to Believe channel. The show itself is called It's Not an Orb, It's Dust.
I love that. I love that title.
And the reason that we called it that, the reason we came up with that name is because as an investigator, especially when you do it for as many years as myself, Peter Wren, Linda Corno, Trevor Palmer, I mean, the four of us together probably have 50 years of experience in paranormal investigating, not including the guests that we bring on. And I can tell you, one of the things that was the most freaking annoying, especially if you meet somebody or whatever, it's like, oh, I've got a picture of a ghost. And it's like this dust ball that's flying across the screen. I do not want to see pictures of your vacuum dust because
are people showing you that? You're seeing pictures of people's vacuum dust?
You get literally thousands sometimes in a year.
Really? Wow.
And it was like, look at all the orbs in this room. Look at all the dust in that room.
Zoom in.
Or especially like when it's raining. Oh, can you imagine? Look at all the orbs. You mean the raindrops or the snowflakes or, hey, Kevin, it's good to see you. But yeah, so but this, on the it's not an orb, it's dust show. We bring on some amazing guests. Like we bring in paranormal investigators. We bring in, I guess the right word would be UFOologists. We bring
ufologists, yeah.
And we bring in cryptozoology experts. We bring in people that have, very successful YouTube shows, psychics, mediums. We bring it all. So make sure you go to the I Want to Believe channel and subscribe to the channel itself. But make sure you watch the show, and it's every Sunday night at 6:00 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 Eastern. But yeah, it's a really, really good show, and we have so much fun. Sometimes we just do, the top 10 blah blah blahs, whatever it is, right? Like we just have so much fun with it. But so getting into the story, so it was about 10 years ago. And this is my only, I guess, UFO kind of story, but it was about 10 years ago, and it was really funny because my daughter had actually phoned me one day. And she had said, Mom, we were out on this hill and we were kind of partying. So, I mean, of course, I assumed that maybe, they weren't quite all completely in their heads, and she said, we saw these big orange orbs in the sky, like massive orange. And she goes, they were so bright and they were like in a triangle formation. And, so I thought that was pretty cool. And, but a part of me was like, okay, well, maybe you were drunk. I'm just throwing it out there. And then about a few days later, I was sitting on my front step, and it was just a gorgeous, gorgeous night. And I was just sort of sitting there, and it was like, it's nice and quiet in my neighborhood, so it was just really pleasant. And all of a sudden, at the end of the sidewalk, there was this massive, massive orange ball, like right at the end of the sidewalk, up in the air. And I remember, I don't quite remember walking to the end of the sidewalk to see it. It's hard to explain, but I wasn't I don't remember the exact walk there, but I do remember standing underneath it, and I'm looking at this thing, and it is massive, and it's orange, and it's like, it is so bright. And to me, it was like, I mean, it was super quiet, but it was hovering, and it was just sitting there hovering. And I was like, what in the flying frick is this? Like, oh my God. But I was very calm. But then there was this realization that I'm the only one on the block seeing it, right? Like I'm standing here in this quiet neighborhood all by myself. So I start screaming for my daughter. I was like, Megan, come here, get outside, like, come quick. And my neighbors come running out, and my daughter comes running out, and my son comes running out, and they all stop. They're all like this. Oh my God. My son starts crying because he's only a little guy at the time. And it kind of freaked him. But all of a sudden, this thing just went boom. I've never seen anything fly that fast before. We get a lot of military jets that fly across. This was like 4 times faster than a military jet. This just went boom. But it was so bright, you could see it off in the distance still. And I thought, what in the hell is that? And I would have to say that was probably my only really encounter with some things like that. And then, of course, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, it was a meteor, it was St. Elmo's fire. And I was like, this thing hovered. A meteor doesn't stop and hover before it hits the earth. And a meteor doesn't fly away. So we know it's not a meteor, But it was interesting because my daughter, like I said, my daughter had seen the exact same thing, except she saw 3 of them. But like a week before. And I thought, there must be some sort of correlation. You know what I mean?
Well, when you told her about what you saw, did she say, yeah, that
exactly,
sounds like...
She said that's exactly how it was. It was higher in the sky for them than it was for me. Like, this felt like it was just above, I guess, like, let's say a street lamp, you know what I mean? But maybe 10, 20 feet above the street lamp. So it wasn't really close, but it wasn't like how they saw it. She said that they saw it more up in the sky, and they were already on a hill on
Well,
top.
they were out of town. You were in town, right?
Right. Well, they were in town, but they were on a hill
On
in
a
the city.
hill. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, but it was interesting. It was really cool, actually. And I would have to say I was not at all freaked out, which was good. But it was very. It made me kind of. I'd always been able to, like I said, put aliens sort of in its own little box. I wasn't, and this brought it out of that box. And I still never really, went into the whole deep dive of it, just simply because, it's not one of my prime interests, I guess is the best way to say it. But I have to say I was fascinated. Like when I saw it, I was just like, wow. And it's funny because we have had a lot of UFO people that have studied UFOs all of their life on the show on the channel. And all of them were like, that's not the first time we've heard this, and we're still trying to explain that
particular type, huh?
Yeah, because they haven't seen it themselves, but they said we've heard many stories about this particular type. And it was so fascinating. But the best part was, I think, is that the fact that my neighbor and my kids were able to see it, even if it was just for a second, you know what I mean? Because I guess you didn't feel quite so crazy knowing that you had the verification of, like, you're not the only one seeing this, even if it was just for a quick minute. But I think we should probably get into the readings. We do have a few. They're across the screen. So guys, if you're in the list, you can see your name and the order that you're going to be receiving your reading in. Also, if you do want to get a reading on the show today, make sure that you read the instructions going across the screen. That is how you can donate for a reading today. And we're just going to take just a quick minute here. We're going to take a quick break just so that, I can run to the bathroom. We can just kind of get into the reading mode for a minute. It's only a 3-minute break, but we will be right back. And you're okay with that, hey, Ambika?
Oh yeah, perfect. I will run and stand up, take a break. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just shuffling up my cards, getting ready.
Awesome. All right, perfect, guys. We will be back in just a moment. Oh, we're back. We're back. Hey, Jamie, how's it going? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining today. Just before we get into the readings, just remember, if you do want a personal reading, you can contact Ambika at ambikadevi.com. And if you would like a personal reading with me, please do contact me at oracleintuitions.com. So first up is Miss Jessica. Now, it's up to you. How do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? How do you want to do it?
It doesn't matter. We can go one time you're first, one time I'm first.
Sure.
Go for it. Jessica's a repeat devotee here.
Yeah. I think it's also good to, is that sometimes people get like, a different opinion, right? Because they get to see.
I'll go first. However you want. What's the question? What's the question?
Yeah. So she wants to know, she basically just wants an insight reading on her relationship. So her name is Jessica. His name is Cameron. I do know that they live,
say his first name again, please.
Cameron.
Cameron. Okay.
And I believe that Jessica is supposed to be moving to the States to be with Cameron. So she just wants an insight on that.
Huh. And they've known each other a long time or no?
Quite a while, I think. Yeah.
Well, the Lover's card, the first card in the reading.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I think, look, we already know this is who you are, right? The pair of you, but we have to remember in the Lover's card that there's actually a third being in the top there, and it's that spiritual connection. So often when I'm reading for people, they have a good maybe physical connection, or even that could be in just even a business relationship. Sometimes business relationships turn into love relationships, and of course a lot of emotional strength from a lot of newer couples. But what this Lover's card likes to remind me about is that spiritual connection and also the intellectual connection. Because if you look closely in this particular painting, he's looking at her, but she's looking up into the spiritual realm. And that creates a flow of energy. We have to remember that in relationship. Boy, that's a lot from one card. The next card is the Four of Swords. There needs to be more talk here. What was that bottom line of that question?
I think she just wants to
just insight. All right. Yeah, the insight. Here's the insight. Yeah. And then I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, unless you want me to keep going. You tell me, Catherine.
Totally up to you. Totally up to you. Whatever.
There needs to be more talk. The next is the Four of Swords in reverse. There's too much stillness. We can relate that way. I mean, if we're face to face, we don't have to use a lot of words. But in this case, also because the next card, which is the outside influences, is the Queen of Cups, that there's a lot of emotion and there's topics that you would like to communicate about with Cameron. And I say get to it, do video chats and get to it, because that's what builds a really strong relationship. That's an important cornerstone. And I'm going to turn it over to Catherine now. Let her take it from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to really agree with what a lot of Ambika said, actually. I do get that there is still this... every time I tap into your relationship, the only thing on a more, I guess what the word is, I don't really want to use the word negative, but I guess it is to some degree, because that's the best way to describe it, is that you seem to be a little bit more in doubt and seeking answers, whereas Cameron seems to be a little bit more solid with the relationship. Like, it feels like he's in this place of, he knows what he wants. He knows that you're going to be there. This is all going to work out. It's all going to come forth. But I feel that because the things aren't moving quite as quickly as you would like them to do, or to happen, that there is that hesitation. I'm also getting too, is similar to what Ambika said in regards to the communication. I feel that sometimes maybe you're a little scared to, bring up certain topics, but when they are presented, they might come forth as more, not, it's like, I almost want to say to some degree accusatory instead of being like just a direct question, or just more. It kind of feels like instead of you guys just getting into conversations, there's more, when is this happening? When is this happening? When is this happening? And that's just the energy that I'm picking up. I feel like, to sort of relax, enjoy the conversations with him as they're presented. But at the same degree, it's perfectly fine to also be direct and say, how are things going on your side? Do are things moving forward as far as me getting there? But again, don't do it in a place of where you're fearful of the answer, because I do get that energy. It's almost like you might be a little bit fearful of the answer. And sometimes when we're fearful of an answer, we can be a little bit more harsh with the question, rather than, or we can be ambiguous in regards to the question rather than just being direct. And then we can switch that topic, or we can switch the conversation itself. But I really do get a lot of like, it's time to enjoy. I feel like saying, especially like, it's funny because you had brought up that Lover's card. One of the things that had come for me when I pulled a card was the Judgment. And it again, two very strong major arcanas coming through. And it's like, be in this place of sort of going with the flow, like really start enjoying the conversation rather than being in this place of like waiting for the answer all the time.
While you were just saying that, I pulled a card. Look what it is.
Yeah, three major arcanas.
You're getting it from all angles from us, Jessica. Jessica, listen to me. I have something really important to tell you. We can only feel and experience love from others to the height and level that we love ourselves. It's about self-esteem and self-love, because that gives you the centeredness. And then, yes, there are all these compartments. There's these different areas of life that have to be talked about. And couples or any partnerships, could be a parent-child, need to learn how to say, I need to call a meeting, I need to talk about some stuff, and figure out a method. Some people, it's like we have a regular time every week or every day, hopefully, where we have a little bit of time to look in each other's eyes and talk about some stuff, not just have to go through actions of survival, so it takes time and patience too.
It can be hard, right? Because I understand, where they're, separated and stuff like that. So it's obviously a harder relationship. But at the same time, sometimes it's just nice to not worry about the relationship and just go into, the as we the flow, go into the flow of enjoy, just enjoy what you guys are talking about, or enjoy what's going on, or listen to what each other are saying. Because especially, as you had pulled that Four of Swords, it's almost like you're not listening to each other. There's a, you know what I mean? Or I feel like
I think it's not being okay with stillness too. You don't have to have constant, don't expect text messages all the time. Nobody can keep that up.
No.
And we need to have our own space. We need to be good with ourselves, so we're not dependent upon others for constant feedback. We need to give other people space too. Everybody's got creative stuff they want to do, and
one of the things
when
that
it's about understanding the rhythm of when do we come together and when do I get this and how much space do we have. And this takes communication and negotiation.
One of the things, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things, is that a lot of people don't realize, like, they'll send a message. Now, I mean, there's a difference between waiting days and weeks for a fucking response. That's just rude.
But wait. Back in, what? Even the 1800s, you had to wait for letters.
That's true.
Someone had to like read what you wrote them. Then they had to think about it. Then they had to write, and they might have had to rewrite a couple times.
We're so
then they had to somehow send it to you on a pony.
Yeah. I think I feel like a lot of people, they want that instant, the instant gratification, right? Like, it's got to be now. And they're forgetting about the fact that people, we still have to pay our bills. We're still working. We got to go to the bathroom. Not everybody takes their phone when they take a dump. Like, literally, like, no, but you know what I mean? And we have people that are like, he didn't respond for like 5 minutes. And you're like,
wow,
roll the roll there, honey. Like, you know what I mean? And we have to be in that place of just allowing. And again, here's the thing. I mean, if there is, because we are in an instant world, we should expect, something. Like, if it's weeks or months later, okay, well, I'm going to assume that this person's just not interested. Like, you know what I mean? Or maybe at that time too, they're going through their own stuff. And sometimes people just have to get into their own stuff. They have to figure out their own shit before they can deal with the relationship stuff. And a lot of people really get confused as to like that energy of, and I found this with readers too. I'm going to say this straight out. I found this with readers, like, is that some people will say, oh, well, if they were interested, they would be like this and giving you diamond rings and bringing over ponies. And, and it's like, nah, like, not everybody that's not everybody's, let's say, love language. You know what I mean? Some people aren't verbal. Some people don't say, I love you 800 times a day. But
some
what they do,
some people really don't love touch.
Yeah.
Some people don't really care about gifts.
Exactly.
It goes giving and receiving on these languages. And some people need a lot of quiet time because they're creative, and they need to go do their creative stuff, because that's a super passion of theirs.
5 minutes to like text or respond, or having to worry, oh, I didn't get back to her right away, and then somebody's, you know what I mean? Like, we just have to kind of sometimes stop. And this, Jessica, this also doesn't have to do with just you. I just wanted to bring this up. This is just something that Ambika and I are expressing as not only women who have, done the gamut of dating and whatever stuff is out there.
Well, also because we talk to people about this daily, and have been doing it for many, many decades, advising people on relationships and communication. And,
we heard it all.
Catherine and I are friends, everybody. And, we've been friends for a while, and that's how I find myself invited here. And outside of the show, we say to each other, why don't people just go talk to each other? Because this is a repeated epidemic of communication failure that we have seen. Me for 46 years. 46 years of watching people making the same mistake repeatedly. And think of all the different kinds of relationships that we have, and we're not listening enough, and perhaps we're not asking a question and then just listening and listening more, and being okay with contemplative moments, whether it's our own or others, that space is good. It doesn't have to always get filled with something.
Like, it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes, I'm not one of those. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I like I like the idea of man caves. Have a man cave. Please do. I'm okay with it, right? I'm okay with having my woman cave. When we get together, we're together. You know what I mean? Like, I would be perfectly fine if when I'm dating, like, the guy has a workshop or his own space or his own room. That goes down to not only trust, but it goes into understanding that you guys can have your own energy within yourself, and when you get together, you come together, you're together, it's amazing, or whatever it is, or you're doing even daily things, whatever, however that is. But to have your own space is perfectly okay, and a lot of people don't seem to understand that it's like, I got to be glued at the hip every 2 minutes, or got to have that instant response, or I got to have this this validation of this relationship on a regular basis. And we don't always need that, but we do need the honesty, the trust, the being able to open, being able to be vulnerable within that relationship. And sometimes being vulnerable within a relationship is just opening up and saying, this is how I feel, or I feel a little bit weird doing this, or I feel a little bit off with this, but I'm going to do it anyway. It might be out of my normal, but I'm being vulnerable to you. I'm opening up to you, and I'm sharing something that is deeply personal, whether it's a behavior, a thought process, whatever it is. And I feel like a lot of people aren't willing to be vulnerable at times as much.
Yeah. That I'd have to agree with that one too. They're just afraid. They're afraid of asking. And this is what we need to heal, everybody. This is what is going to change a lot of things for the better. It's just
absolutely
kinder communication.
Yeah, and it's just being more, allowing ourselves to be in a place of accepting another human where they're coming from too, right? But as to your question, Jessica, I mean, I like personally, both of us felt the same, and I believe even with your question, that on Wednesdays you've come in, and Naomi feels the same way. When I've done the show with, like, I feel like things are moving, but you just have to be in a place of allowing that flow as well. Don't be too worried about the when. Be in that place of of now, I guess. Like, what, listen to each other. Listen. Hey, Naomi, I literally just said your name. She says, good evening. I just finished my manifestation live show, and I'm glad I can make it so she can watch our show tonight.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So next we actually have Kayla. So Kayla's got 2 questions.
Okay.
I'm going to let you take the first one. I actually just have to go grab a charger here. So I'm going to let you talk, and I'll probably just go for a second. But Kayla is asking, okay, so what is the new person coming in this new year going to feel toward? So I had picked up that I did feel a new person coming in towards her. Okay, I'll just give you a little bit of background.
Okay.
But she's asking what is the new person coming in this year going to feel towards me when first meeting me? What will be her internal feelings and thoughts when meeting me? So I don't know how I don't know if you're able to, go that deep, or how, not that you can't go that deep. I'm what I'm getting at. I'm being silly. But yeah, so that's pretty much what, or maybe even just talk about a new person if you do feel one coming in or anything like that. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to go grab my charger. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I mean, not wanting to sway or try and limit you, because what we have to understand is that when we're attracting someone, it's a result of what we are projecting out. This is the law of attraction. So anything and anyone that comes in is a reflection of where we are. If we have distinct desires and we're focused on them, we will begin to find them. They'll show up. But we then have to be very clear about everything we want and everything we don't want, so that if something that we don't want comes along, we say no thank you. But so with all of that, I did kind of pick up an impression of a look, like darker hair, maybe shorter. Yeah, this kind of, I didn't even see your original question. Are they going? I don't know if Catherine's receiving them, but if you could drop something more in the chat if you have more of a question, because I pick up someone's coming, but what do you want? I'd love to know more about what you want, and if I'm using astrology, I can then tell you a lot about potentials, but I would need to build your chart. I'm sure you don't want to drop that in the chat, but Catherine, that's the kind of question I'd want to make a chart and look at a progressed moon chart.
Right. Absolutely. I totally get that. It is a more difficult one. The thing is, I keep wanting to go here, Kayla, and I know it might not exactly be the answer that you're seeking. Okay. But I feel like when you ask these questions, like how will they feel when meeting me and stuff like that, what it's basically doing is you're setting up for expectations.
You're already creating how it's going to go, because you're not you're not being open to what's happening here. Whoever comes is going to be a result of where you're at, so they're going to react to you like where you're at that moment. That's how it works.
Emotionally, right? Exactly. And it's
emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of it. And it's not about projecting something that you think somebody wants. It's about being authentic and vulnerable, like Catherine said earlier. These are the ways to approach meeting a new person. I mean, do you ever just go for a walk at a park and say hello to someone and perhaps have a conversation? Or it's not like meeting someone at a bar or a club, because that vibe is a very distinct projection, maybe prowling or something, Yeah. But what are we talking about? What do you want? Whatever you want is how they're going to feel, because you'll be projecting it and they'll be mirroring it back.
I do feel like with your first encounter, and I've brought this up before, is sort of what I felt, is that I do feel like they're going to see you as a potential. So it's I mean, I'm not one to be like love at first sight or anything like that, right? Because if we claim that, we're really limiting ourselves as to getting to know a person. And I don't feel like this type of person that's coming in there's when we talk about people, there are certain things that we as humans need to be aware of, right? And one of them is somebody that wants to jump into a relationship, like after the first. I can't tell you, back in the day, or even whatever. I went for coffee with somebody and they're like fucking calling you, excuse my language, every 2 minutes, or you know what I mean, or texting when texting came out and all of this stuff. And it's
slow down, people.
Like I just freaking met you. Like, go away. Like I just, like, it's too much. You know what I mean? But if you're not secure in yourself, and here's the difference, is that I've always been very secure for most part. There's been off and on times, where I've been like, but for the most part, when you're secure with yourself, that type of behavior isn't attractive. And it doesn't mean that you can't have, when you're starting to get to know each other, it's okay to, like, call once, like, every couple of days. I'm not setting limits on it. I'm not telling you that. but it's that energy of somebody coming in and being like, hey, I know we went for coffee, but I could see myself marrying you.
No. You don't do that early on. You
Yeah,
just
and there's
don't
so
do
many
that.
people that
You
do.
don't start listing that stuff in the beginning. The
Yeah,
whole beginning is about building a
yeah,
foundation
and
through
that's what I'm getting with
communication, and that
Kayla.
foundation has got to be trust
Yeah,
and clear. It's because the biggest mistake that I see people make, one of the biggest, because they make a lot of them, is that they project what they think the other person wants.
right.
They try to or they already see red flags and they're still trying to overcompensate.
Yeah,
And so we've seen sometimes a series of red flags that most people would just go, wow, really? That clients have told us, and still they're asking, but is the other one thinking about me? Do they care about me? Do they still love me? And they just told us such a series. I'm not talking speed bumps, people. I'm talking full on brick wall crashes.
where you're like, yeah, no, like,
And
what do you
there's,
mean?
you know what the problem is? There is improper closure. But we have to be strong, and we have to be solid in our aloneness, because some of the most lonely people I have ever met or known are in committed relationships.
Yeah,
So we have to, it goes back to what Catherine was saying earlier, what we both were about having your own creativity and even your own circle of friends. I'm not saying that's it, but you have to know, you have to be you. You were you before this other person came along. You can't lose you. If you
yeah.
lose you, then forget it, because then who's in the relationship?
So Kayla's just going to change her question really quick, because it is something that, like, to be honest, like, it is like we're talking about a future meeting, and we can't, although we can see a person coming in, it really does depend upon where you are within yourself as to how they're going to respond to you. And it's interesting because a lot of times we've seen, even probably Amika and I have both seen this, where maybe people meet, and because of one person's energy, or they're not in the right place, it's not the right time.
Yeah,
And sometimes
absolutely.
and sometimes it comes around again because either one or both of them have grown. And so, it really depends on you and where you are as a person. So she is just asking, what do you feel happening in my gym job for me? Was told I'll get upset and leave. Is
What?
that true? I'm
Here, this is what I just picked, and I don't know who told you it, but that is the card of picking it up and leaving. And that just
it
came
might have
out.
been from another reader. So she's just
You know what? Who is this? This is Kayla. Kayla,
yeah.
when you find a reader that you like, stick with them. Don't run around and play compare the psychic,
Yeah,
because
because
you'll
we
drive
can't read on
yourself
other people's
nuts
energy. Like, to
trying
read
to
on,
get different information from different people or
yeah.
concurrence. You've got to decide who you trust. And even better than that, I would want to teach you how to feel it in you, so so you can tune into it. This is something I do with my clients, but I get it, wanting a second opinion. But when it comes to this, it becomes karma for us to start over describing. We will actually project in through your thoughts, and you will create something that maybe wasn't even meant to be through your free will, because through these thought waves we're actually manipulating everything we thought is the architect. So we don't want to project into you, oh, it's 5'6", black hair, wearing a leather jacket,
Yeah.
on a dark alley, 12
At midnight, at
12:37
yeah.
12:37 a.m.
Yeah.
And it that's not really good for us
Yeah.
as the people doing this work. We are here to show you potential and also show you through the experience of what we've learned through the years of our clients teaching us through relationships and communication. And uh, when it comes to uh, picking up maybe from the souls or spirit matter that hangs around, like what we were talking about earlier in the show, then sometimes it's to help or learn something. I mean, whenever we're in any relationship, it's about learning and elevation of soul.
So she did rephrase it. She just said, I rephrased it to you. What's to come of her gym job, or the job that she's at right now, that she's been at for 3 years?
Okay, again, it's not what's to become. It's what do I need to do in order to? What do you want? This is what we ask. We don't ask, how can life slap me upside the head? No, we ask, how can I create? And then you tell me, what is it you're trying to create? That's what I'll answer for you. Think again. Maybe we go on to the next person and come back, because this is something to think about, Kayla.
She did ask another question in here as well. She had put on 2 questions. The second one was, we do have to kind of move on a little bit, but
Yeah.
She just said, how am I feeling? How am I going to feel about Fargo when I live there this upcoming year? She's nervous about moving. So she's just wondering, do we see, positive things coming through for that?
Not as of yet, because there are a lot of people you still have to have conversations with. This is distinct. At this point, you're still kind of stuck on the threshold, and once you get there, you'll probably get yourself to kind of the same state, because it's really about establishing some communication and relationships with these people before you would move on to it. I mean, you can go. It'll probably go through okay, but the more open in your communication, the better, because I was picking a few cards, and that last one was the 7 of Swords. So communication has to be a lot more open and honest. That could be hanging you up. So please be aware of it.
Yeah, as far as Fargo goes, to be honest, I feel like when you move there, it's funny because I actually got the 7 of Swords as well coming through.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I do feel this energy that yeah, it's really going to depend on if you're in a place of being open to receiving new energy and new people coming through. Because I do feel that if you allow yourself to enjoy the place, I really feel you thriving in that environment. That's what's really coming through. There's like a really positive exchange of energy coming through. I'm getting the Empress, I'm getting the 6 of Coins. So, it's going to be, if you're sort of one of those people that are, introverted and you're kind of waiting for people to come to you, it is going to be much more difficult to have that happen. You're going to have to, get yourself out there. You're going to have to, put in place like the job, the whatever, as Ambika said too, I do feel like closing off or having conversations, maybe with people that you need to maybe perhaps sort things out or whatever. But
It's to trust some of the situations, and also
yeah,
as far as what Catherine was just saying, you're going to have to go a bit outside your box or your comfort zone, because to establish meeting people is going to be in different venues or opportunities
and it's a
than
different
what was the
environment from
norm
where you are.
before. Yeah, it's environment, it's style, it's like the style of communication and
Yeah.
protocols. So just make sure you become clearly aware. there's high potential definitely to make a good friend who can kind of help you understand the customs. Sometimes we go to new places and there are kind of unwritten customs about how things are done or how people communicate. So that will be helpful for you to dive into and understand more about.
Yeah, I'm really feeling this energy of like, if you're waiting for the stuff to show on their own, it's going to be, there is probably going to be disappointment with the move. That's what I keep getting. So, even if it's a matter of, go to your local coffee shop, meet people, go to the local bar if you drink, like have a drink, or something like that. Like, be in that energy of being open and receptive to people, because I do feel this being a really positive move for you, but it is really going to depend upon how you present yourself too, and if you're open to the receiving of what can happen within this environment. Because that's really, especially with this Empress card, I mean, that really talks about abundance. It's really talking about new opportunities. It's about security within ourselves. And I feel like that is the energy that's really coming through within this energy, like within that question is what's happening. As I just want to kind of get into the gym job, because I do want to, we have to go, we've got a few people that we've got to read for tonight. But with the gym job, I kind of feel, I don't know, I feel like if you're leaving, or if you chose to leave, I feel like the leaving would be on your own choice. I'm not seeing really any energies or fights or anything like that. I feel like it's more, if you're in a place of looking for a disaster to happen, or to where you're, like, yeah, like,
there is confrontation, but it has to be handled with decorum.
Right. Like, it's going to be depending on how you react to it. So, there might be, maybe a conflict comes up, like in any job. We can't be specific as for the conflict. We can't tell you what the conflict will be, that could or couldn't happen. Right. But what it's basically saying is that if there is a conflict, just put yourself in a place of like, what do I want from this job? Do I want to stay within this job? Can I handle this conflict as a temporary energy? Because 99% of conflict is temporary, right? It's usually a matter of being able to diplomatically, or even being able to talk to the other person or figure something out. And I'm not really getting anything, too drastic coming up. Again, I really,
but I have a question.
Yeah.
If she's going to Fargo, wouldn't she be leaving the job?
Yeah.
I don't even understand. I'm disconnected there.
I don't know if she wants to leave the job right away, though. I think that's the main thing. Like, she doesn't want to leave the job until she actually goes. I'm assuming. So
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we moving on to the next one?
You betcha. So up next is Rachel.
Thank you,
And
Kayla.
I just wanted to so John, this isn't a dating site, so I'm actually deleting your comment. But also, if you do want a reading, you can, just all the instructions on donating are going across the screen. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. But as much as we appreciate comments, dating comments for people aren't welcome on this on the chat. So Andrea wants to know, she just wants to know, I actually asked her to clarify. So she wants to know what spirit wants to tell me in regards to the actions I need to take with Doug. She is pregnant, and so the clarification was, we've been in a relationship for almost a year now, and I'm pregnant, and she would like to know, she goes, I'm just confused. I feel like it's a great connection, but I feel there's a lot preventing us to be really great.
Well, relationships are learning places and they should constantly be growing. So, and I mean, come on, now you're becoming a mother and now he a father. So there's a lot of transformation going on here, but let's see that what's what
This
just
is
popped out. The page of swords just popped out. And that that tells us that, like we've talked about tonight, a lot about communication. And this one's about really getting together and forming a game plan. You're a team. So if you're feeling in your relationship, and this is for everybody, but definitely for you here right now, that it's just not as wonderful. Well, a lot of times it's because things need to be renegotiated, like maybe time or communication or how we do stuff, or and also just to reinforce or even come up with some new guidelines of how this goes, because it's like creating a government in a relationship. There's got to be agreement, and I do like it depends on your frequency of negotiations, but at least yearly, you know, to go over it and make new agreements. That's why I love the idea of hand fasting, and I like to teach people that marriage is a financial institution.
mm-hmm.
you know that there are many financial reasons to do it, and there are many love reasons that have nothing to do with it. And so love agreements are a whole different set of rules and boundaries. And when we're lost or feeling listless, quite often it's because we don't have a clear roadmap together and an agreement. And that's what that page means. And then we have to realize now, I love that this card came up for this, the Three of Wands, because now, yeah, there's the two of us, but now there's going to be this third human being. Holy cow. And
I actually
Catherine
got
could
the three of
definitely
cups.
tell. Would you get?
Three of cups.
Oh, so sweet. So, it changes the dynamic, but the good
Yeah.
news is there's a lot of people out there who are really great at supporting new moms and families and tapping into one and really leaning, find one that's your style and allow yourself to start to get things into order. I think sometimes, and I've seen it repeat many times, that especially this is first baby here we're talking about, right? Yeah, so that changes dynamic of life so much. And there's physical changes, but there are things, there are feelings and senses from the past, and maybe some old hurts that need to be talked about. Those come up when you least expect it. And but the bottom line here is that you made a great choice. Look, we got the King of Wands.
Mm-hmm.
Do um Yeah, go ahead, Catherine. Take
I
it from
actually got
there.
the Hierophant with the Three of Cups, which is beautiful energy, really. I think one of the things that you do have, and this is something that I think you had kind of mentioned this about communicating with each other. Um, Communication sucks. She says, I just want a solid plan. Plans are not always guaranteed, but it's needed. Yeah, like I feel like
Communication sucks. Wow.
I feel like first of all, you guys need to remove the external energies that are around you. And it doesn't mean walk away from people, but other people's opinions that are around you don't matter, because, and we brought this up last time, this is really has to do with you and him and the baby. Ultimately that you're the family. And so your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, aunt, nieces, cousins, best friend, none of their opinion matters. It's you and him. And when you sit with him and say, look it, um, we have to sort out a plan. Now, here's the thing. is that some people are not really good with that kind of communication. It maybe they're in a place of a little bit of fear, or maybe they're in in a place of projecting into the future. Maybe they're thinking about putting the kid through college rather than the kid just coming out to begin with, right? Like, you know what I mean? People go into weird places when they're about to have babies. But she says, exactly, his mother and sister are in this. I told him it's supposed to be us and our children right now. 100%. That's what I was really picking up. It has to be the two of you. Now, of course, he probably does want his mom and his sister's opinion, for certain things, because of the fact that, they've maybe had babies. But I really do feel, I keep getting, Andrea, that you have to start making your plans too. Even if he might not be completely included, and if he does question that, you have to say, well, you're not ready, or you're not ready. You're not willing to sit and have this conversation with me. And I have to start making my plans for me, because I'm not going to have this baby, and put it in a drawer. Like, I mean, like, we need to have I need to have a financial plan. We need to have this. I need to have that.
There's many things that a couple needs to discuss.
Right.
We have to talk about food, environment, how we feel about children. And now one is really coming in our family. But even if you didn't have children or want children, there's children in the world. You have to have an agreement on how are we interacting with children type humans, and then fitness and wellness, and do you have any fantasies or ideas for the future?
How do you discipline, right? Like, these are little things
there's so many within that. I'm talking chunked up, just like 13 compartments of life, and they all have subsets, but these are,
but at the same degree,
all have to be figured out.
You have to have your set plan, especially if he's not willing or able at this point, or maybe he's in a place of fear. I remember when I was married, my ex-husband, even though I already had a child, he would go to his mother for shit. And I was like, what? Like, she's old school, like 100 years old. What the hell are you doing?
That's, there's mothers and their son relationship.
But it was very interfering. Like, it was very interfering, And so
there are many fairy tales about that.
Yeah. I had to set boundaries, and say, look, I am the wife. Your mother is not your wife. If you want to marry your mother, you go fucking marry your mother. But
a lot of people try to.
This is me, right? Like, this is our relationship, and ultimately we're divorced, so that obviously didn't go as well. But
he was trying to project the idea of his mother's behavior on Catherine.
Right.
And Catherine stood her ground and said, this is not me. And there you go.
Exactly. Like, you're going to do things differently. And I do feel like, again, make your plan. Be very solid in how you feel about discipline. I'm just using that as an example, because that's usually one of the first things, besides, the baby stuff. But that is usually one of the first things that you have to interact with a child. How do you want to discipline? How do you want to feed? Do you want a regular schedule? Do you want this? Come to your own terms with it? Because, as the mom, you are going to be doing 80 to 90% of the work usually anyhow, especially those first few months, whether we like to or not. But I do feel that, this is important when you make your plans, and again, if he brings it up that, well, why wasn't this included? Because, or if he says, I wanted my mom included. I mean, I don't think he would use those words. It's not your mom's baby. It's not your mom's baby. If your mom's going to push out the baby, she can start having, she can give advice. But until, she's not the one that's going through freaking labor. Sorry, but it doesn't count. This is my family, my life.
We bring these these behavior patterns into relationships because we learn from these people who raised us. And depending on the intensity or level of control that certain adult units can put out there, sometimes these relationships do get in the way like that. I mean, as you were talking about it, Catherine, it was reminding me of the storyline in the series Sex and the City when Charlotte married her first husband, and his mother would just like come in while they were in their bedroom, and it was a comedy portrayal of that kind of mother-son relationship.
I'm telling you something that's not always fucking comedy. Excuse my language. But I think we had my mother-in-law stay with us for about 6 months, and she used to come in, and we'd be like ready to crawl into bed. I'm ready to go to sleep, whatever. And she would come into our room, to use the phone for an hour and sit there at the end of the bed and yap. And I was like, the fuck out, lady. Like, Jesus. Or we would be on the couch and she would come sit beside us, like in between us all the time. And I was like, okay, this three-way relationship here, it ain't going anywhere. Like, this is, but you're so welcome, Andrea. Like, I do feel that would be a really good idea to talk to your mom, come up with your plan, tell her your plan. Tell her your plan. And I like the way that you said that. You're telling her your plan. And she says she's somewhat similar. It's getting too much. And until you set your boundaries, you have to set the boundaries. And this is going to be so important. It's not being rude to set a boundary. It's not being unloving to set the boundary. I really liked, one of the movies, this actually just popped into my mind. If you haven't seen Monster-in-Law, go watch it, because it's with
definitely
with Jane Fonda and what's her name, J-Lo. And I love what she says. I love what she says to Jane Fonda, because Jane Fonda is very similar to, like, that's literally what my marriage was like to some degree. It was like that behavior, but I love what she said to her at the end. And it was something that I had, to a degree, said to my mother-in-law, because the funny thing is, we ended up really getting along, even though we were, him and I were getting divorced. Her and I actually got along great after that, but another story. But what I'm basically saying is, I love the way that she, says to Jane Fonda, look, I want you at every Christmas. I want you at every concert. I want you at every baseball game. But this is my kid. But you're here to enjoy my child. You're not here to raise my child, is more or less. And when she's, putting that boundary is a beautiful thing, because it establishes the relationship without having the hurtful feelings, most of the time behind it, like, depending on how the person accepts it, right? But this is her grandchild, but you're the one who is the mother. That's the ultimate. Ultimately, you are the mom. And so I hope that gave you some clarity, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, Catherine. And also, it would have less of a probability of putting the mother-in-law in a defense or even a more offensive kind of position, because it's not of the way of the establishment of it.
Yeah.
But there are grandparents that think they rule the world. So tread lightly, but hold your ground,
Absolutely. And the nice thing was too, I'll tell you something. Even though I'm kind of, giggling and, or saying stuff about, my ex-husband, or our marriage, now that, there's just people that aren't supposed to be together. Like, we're not supposed to, but he is, or has become, one of my closest friends, which is awesome. you know, and even though it's not a relationship, you know, in that package,
Right.
you know, we're very like if he's dating somebody, I'm so supportive, you know, vice, you know, if like it's a good, we're friends and that's it.
Friendship. It's a
Friendship.
friendship.
So it's, yeah, and it's so nice. And you know, even when his mother eventually passed away, but you know, she, even after she's every year on my birthday card, every year a Christmas gift, every year, you know, even when she was dying, I went to go see her at the hospital and spent a lot of time with her. Like, you can establish these relationships, but you know, it's the boundaries. Once you establish those boundaries, that's where you can have an honest relationship. So you're so welcome, Andrea. I truly love you too. Thank you so much for, you know, being on the show today, and we really appreciate you listening. Um, and I hope it helped or gave you some clarity. So next up is Heather, and Heather is, where's Heather here? I'm just looking for, ah, here she is. Heather, did you put your actual question in here? Oh, just a general reading. She wants seeing what's coming through. I think also, you know, maybe something to do along the lines of um, Heather, is there anything like, is there anything particular that you want us to look into at all, or just like you said, just general?
Yeah, let's see what path is showing up the most, you know, whether it's cups, wands, swords, or pentacles. We'll let the cards tell us.
I have to run to the washroom.
You have what?
I just have to run to the washroom. So sorry.
All right, don't worry. I got this.
I'll just be a second.
Sure.
This is what happens when you're like been drinking water all bloody day or coffee, and I'm just like, hang on.
All right. Well, we have the Wheel of Fortune to start off. And I love that the corners in this particular artwork of the tarot has these different creatures studying in the 4 different directions. So that also relates to the 4 paths of the cards. And so there's the wands, which are fire and are passion and drive, the swords, which are communication and intellect, and also where humor is. And then the cups, which are love and feelings and the psyche, and pentacles, which are the earth and all of our belongings, but also commerce and our resources, including our bodies. Those are resources too. And there's a little bit of chaos, a little bit of shakeup that needs to happen with this 5 of wands coming up. And interestingly enough, we've got the death card. Now, don't take that literally. It doesn't always mean that, because it is the card of Scorpio and the 8th house in astrology. And so that could be inheriting something, but it doesn't mean inheritance from someone who dies. It could be actually from a new job, or it could be generating something new, very, very creative, a new project. And the sun in reverse tells me that you're leaving. It's like you're elevating to a new stage. I think this is what the death card means there, that through recent communication, you've kind of jumped up to a new level. And I'm just gonna have a peek at a few more, so I'm not going to go card by card, or I'll take another hour, and we've got some more people waiting. But yes, it's also the final card I got is Hierophant, We've seen this one. It's always interesting when I do a series of readings, whether it's been at a psychic fair or at a shop, even during a day or a party. I mean, there's so many different, or even like this on a show. It's always something I look out for. Is there a particular card or cards that come up repeatedly for the different people? Because I think we're all there for the same reason, and especially watching a show like this. So hearing about something like the Hierophant again, about a manifesto or creating a set of boundaries. And we've heard about this in our talking to other people, but this is also coming up. And what I said earlier, if you recall, about commitment and relationships and creating a new agreement every year, it's great to do that with ourselves, and even quarterly or at least every 4 months. Write out a map of what you want to manifest and create. What do you want to learn? What do you want to explore that's new? What do you want to experience that you've never experienced before? And then every 4 months at least, or every 3 months, do it again, at the very least every year. But I suggest you do it more, and also project, what do I want in a year? What do I want in 5 years? What do I want in 10 years? It's good to do all three. But it's time for you. You're moving up a level, which is great. Congratulations. But there's some parts of you that you're letting go because of it. And it might feel a little unusual, I guess, just kind of like a snake sheds its skin, which happens to be one of the symbols of that card, of that death card.
I remember telling you not very long ago that, Heather, is that I feel like there is, and it kind of goes along with what Ambika's saying as well. Is I do feel like there's a little bit of a test that Spirit is bringing through to you at this moment, and I feel that this is about, becoming into a place where I get, again, like Ambika said, about projecting what it is that you want. What do you desire within a person, within a relationship, all of these things. So one of the some of the cards that I did pull up here, because I do sometimes like to use tarot when it comes to like more, general type of energy. Sometimes I did pull up the Devil, but I also pulled up the Eight of Swords, and it really feels like right now you might be in sort of a place where you're sort of holding yourself back. Sometimes the Devil can represent obsession or oppression or holding yourself back, and especially with that Eight of Swords coming through, that's like holding yourself in a place of it's like you're stopping your life, maybe for some particular reason, especially if you're waiting for something to happen, which I kind of know what it is that you're waiting for, but at the same degree you can't hold yourself back. And I feel like what Spirit is saying to you is, Heather, to start moving forward, because the Faith card, so this is actually the Hierophant as well in this particular deck, but it also talks about faith. And I feel like faith is it's like, again, knowing that it's going to happen, knowing, but having, because I've also got the Magician coming through here. So this is about manifestation, right? But strong manifestation in the place of meaning that I can manifest. I don't have to worry about what the 3D world is doing, because I have my manifestation within me, and I know that this particular whatever is happening, coming through, coming true. It's also in this place of just kind of going and doing your own thing at this particular moment, and being in this energy of just having faith that it's coming towards you. I also got the Empress with the Tree of Life, beautiful energy here. So the Tree of Life is kind of setting the tone for where it is that you want to be. It's like, it's sort of, to some degree, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's the Fates card, but with that Empress coming through, it's like really being in this energy of having the confidence and security within yourself to set those future intentions. instead of doubting the future intentions, okay? Or doubting yourself. Just again, be in that place of, I know that this is happening. I know I'm going to create this. I know that, this particular manifestation is coming forth. And so in the meantime, I'm going to let go of holding myself back, from being, I'm going to stop holding myself back from being depressed or worried or anxious or nervous or whatever. I'm just going to be in this energy of, I know where I am. I actually also got the 6 of Cups. So I know that there's a particular person on your mind. And that actually is saying that they, there is those memories coming through. I do feel that there is forward movement happening. But I do feel that this particular person does need to release themselves also from their own ideas and agendas. Okay, not that they have an agenda with you, but I do feel like they have certain ideas within their mind, and I do feel like this particular energy is going to be released. But again, you're going to have to kind of be in your place where you're just loving life. Just love life. Like, that's kind of the energy that I keep getting, especially with that Empress and the Magician. These are so abundant. Like, they're very abundant cards, right? And they're really saying, create what you want. And then if it's this particular person or another particular person that's coming through, you're already going to be in a place of being able to accept it. And again, set boundaries, as to that relationship, right? But you're going to be in a place where you're going to be able to feel strongly, or at least be, what I'm trying to say, you're going to be in a place of being able to accept this when it comes through. I actually did get the Wheel of Fortune as well, which is interesting.
Which card? Wheel of Fortune, yeah. How do you, with Wheel of Fortune, back in antiquity of using tarot, Wheel of Fortune was not thought of positively. That's why I like to see it as education, and I like the Rider-Waite image with those beings in the 4 corners and really exploring every direction, every possibility, and learning from all of your experiences. It does definitely show potential. There's high potential. I'm not discounting that. But the thing is, really take your time and weigh it all out. I see upping a level, but that means when that happens, sometimes friends slip away, or things have to disappear in order to release us to new levels. So go easy on yourself, but enjoy, because I do see, there were so many positive, proactive signs that we've both received. But I just want to remind you that when we make transitions like that, sometimes it can feel a little bumpy. So just cushion yourself,
When I get the Wheel of Fortune, so the Wheel of Fortune for me, I actually really like the Wheel of Fortune because it's a good reminder of where we are. And when I look at it, for me, it's like life is a series of ups and downs. We're not going to change that. But when we are in a place where we're up, and for me, it has to do a little bit, to be honest. It can also indicate, depending on the cards around it, it can indicate a little bit of ego, because sometimes when people are up, they tend to look down on others. And
but it's holding the mysteries of life,
right. And it's also like, but at the same time, so we have to remember, if we're up and we're not, I guess the best way to say it is, things can change at any time. And we have to remember that. It's sort of one of those, if we're down, remember that things can change, go up. They can come up. It's going to change. Like, don't be in this place of being depressed or feeling, worthless, or feeling despondent, because things change. The wheel rotates all the time. And, it's an ever moving facility of life, right? Is that movement. And that's how I sort of, tend to, again, look at it, in a broader aspect, I guess. But it can really depend for me what the cards are around or what the person is asking and stuff. For me, I feel like by getting into that energy and releasing that devil type of obsessive or even oppressive energy, you're going to notice that shift within yourself where you're going to start to feel more in a place where you're not looking at things just on that 3D level, where you're going to allow yourself to be in a place of just receiving the energy when it's ready to come in. And I do feel that energy wants to come in. That's what I keep getting. I don't know. Did you have anything to say to that?
No, I think we hit it all on that. And, how cool is it that I think every time we've had major arcanas come up the same, haven't we? Tonight.
Yeah, like really, like quite a few actually, which I really like actually, because major
I like when that
arcanas
happens.
Yeah. So we have Brenda. She's next. Brenda is wondering about, let me find her original question. So it's her and Ryan, and she's wondering on what she can expect. I did ask for some clarification on that. She says we were roomies and then developed into more, but he did wrong, so I moved out and blocked him. However, I sent him an email recently, so I'd like to know what actions are going to be or the energy around this right now.
Wow. Okay, there's expectation. Expectation is a recipe for disappointment. So let's think about that. But with that said, after I cut the deck, because I shuffle everybody, then I cut into 3 piles. If I'm doing longer readings, I actually have a process of reading the bottom of each pile. But once I restack them, then we've got a new card on the bottom of the deck. And here we have the Devil card. And that is in addition to what Catherine said earlier. Do you want to just repeat your little identifiers of the Devil card, and then I'll go back?
When I see the Devil card, for me, it's like oppression, obsession. It can, I mean, depending on, again, the cards around, I mean, it can indicate lust, desire.
Right, but this is the bottom line now, and you know what I see it as? The ego mind controlling. And guess what, everybody? It's the heart that makes the best decisions. Even science has proved that there are areas of tissue in our physical hearts that are making the good decisions, not your areas of the brain or the mind funneling down on you. So careful with that, because I just pulled the Emperor in reverse. So, there's already been some not so nice behavior using technology and the speed of communication, which can hurt really deeply. Ghosting someone or blocking someone. And there's still a lot of emotion that needs to pour out. All right, 2 majors right up front. Let's see what's happening next. How interesting. The 10 of Cups. I see that as the potential, but where are we at in this relationship now? Are we talking or blocking? And expect depends on what are you going to do? Are you going to continue blocking, or are you going to continue trying to have a relationship? Do you want it over, or do you want it to stand? Because so far we've got quite a lot pointing at there's emotions that need to be poured out and sorted out. We've got the Star followed by the 10 of Cups. Do we have a family involved here, or is this a younger relationship? Are there kids in this involved? Because the 10 of Cups came up. But then I like to see this 3 of Coins or Pentacles as a soul contract, because it's actually an artisan working, and then the 2 people that hired them could also be seen as a triangle of sorts. Is there another outside influence that's part of causing this disturbance with the relationship? Do we know that, Catherine?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so there might be. But in the headspace, what to expect? Here's what to expect.
No kids, but I do know his family. She says, I don't know if there's a third party at all, though. Kyle, she says
Here's
kind of for a third party. Yeah.
There is a third party.
Kind of. That's, I don't know what that
No,
means.
I see a third party, but I thank you for verifying that. What to expect is that you're going to feel like you put everything into that you possibly can, and it's never going to come to fruition the way you expect it to. That's exactly what this card means. And so we've got the sun up in reverse in the future, in the near future. It's just losing its charge. But you've got to decide what you want. I mean, back in the beginning of this reading, we had a clear symbol of potential, but we need a wake-up call now about, are we repeating patterns from the past here, whether they're your patterns or patterns within in the relationship. Because whenever I see the Three of Swords, whether it's right side up or upside down, it has something to do with what's called prarabdha karma. That's the fructification. I think I was talking about that way back an hour ago. The fructification of karmas. That it doesn't mean that this person that we're in the relationship with right now is the soul particles that we had the relationship with in a past life. What happened is we had this as a possibility of things to work on in this lifetime, and because we came in contact with this other person, we now are springing to action these seeds of karma, these particular ones that either could have sprouted or not, but they did, because we're interacting with this other person. And now we're going through the lessons, and we are being faced with choices. We can't expect anything because it's all dependent upon our choices that we make. So there is a wake-up call going on in this relationship. And right now, it's just not feeling as strong or what you really want. And I have a little bit of concern about being left out in the cold or hitting what would be a very, very low point. I wish I had happy news, but this is a lot of very, very strong. Back up and look at this as if you are your own best friend. And then ask yourself, as your own best friend, what's going on here? And then answer yourself as if you're your own best friend. You'll see what's going on. Catherine, what did you get?
Okay, so I feel, okay, one of the things that I actually did feel here is that I do feel that there will be a return of communication if he hasn't returned it already. But I'm really getting that there's a stalemate going on. I actually got the Two of Swords, which is kind of like, you're going to have to push. And I kind of get where Ambika's coming from, because what I feel is like you're going to be putting in a lot of energy into this communication. I don't feel he's going to be very open, I guess, or very communicative. Like you might have to be the one that is. It's kind of like, you ever have a text message with somebody and they're answering yeah, no, yeah, and you're like, could you write more than one fucking word? Or could you know what I mean? Like you're trying to pry the communication out of somebody who's just not communicating, right? And I do get that. I also am really picking up this energy here that this tends to be a person. I feel like this is a person who really doesn't, and you can verify this in the comments, Brenda, but I kind of feel that this is a person that does an awful lot of stuff for him. Like he doesn't
the third person, are we talking about?
Well, yes and no. I kind of feel like he doesn't regard a
Or
lot
you're
of his
talking
own
about
actions.
him himself?
Yeah, yeah.
More
Like I feel like,
self-centered.
yeah, like
Okay.
he's very self-centered. He thinks about more of his actions than how it affects people. I really get that this is sort of and that's where I'm also getting where the communication may come through, but you're going to have to, like, if you really want communication with him, it's almost like you have to, pry it out of him. And I kind of feel like this isn't worth your time, to be perfectly honest. Like, the bottom line is, do I feel like it's worth your time? I really don't. I feel like there's better for you out there than this particular person, because I do feel that this person is very self-absorbed. I feel a lot of self-absorbed type of energy within him. And I kind of feel that if you were to get back together with him, let's just say, first of all, A, you'd have to be doing a lot of the work. B, I feel like the trust in there is gone for some reason. Like there's been a lot of trust that has been lost. And it kind of feels like one of those people, I guess the best way to explain it is one of those people that do wrong, but then when you give forgiveness, they're like, I don't know, they take advantage of it. It's like if you give them an inch, he takes a mile. And I get that sort of energy coming from them. I'm going to be honest. I just feel like even though the communication will come, is what I get, like he'll return the email or something like that. I feel like you're going to have to ask yourself, is this even worth me putting my time and energy into it? That's really what I get, because I don't feel long run that this is going to go anywhere.
Oh.
Oh, are you there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked like we almost blacked out for a second.
Yeah. It might have got stuck or something like that for a sec. I hope you were able to hear everything.
I could hear you. It came through. Hopefully Brenda heard you.
Yeah. So I hope
I
that
go back
helps.
to what you really want, because I don't think this is what you really want.
Yeah. Yeah. So up next is going to be Dana. And Dana's with Matthew. And she's wondering if we see marriage in the future between the two of them.
Let's get a good shuffle.
They've known each other for quite a while. But and things they were going through a rough patch, but things have gotten much better, she said. So
good. Oh, what just jumped out? Look what just jumped out. The card of the night. Yes, it jumped out. It jumped out. I'm going to continue shuffling. But manifesto night, I think we should call it. That's wild, isn't it? Come on, I was shuffling on my desk and it popped out. It flew out.
That's funny. That's awesome. So Dana, I mean, obviously, because she does read tarot, the Hierophant is a very good positive sign for marriage. So
yes, because there's also on the Rider-Waite image, we have the two kind of altar people, right? Who or helpers, depends on what you want to call them or look at them as. But the thing that I like is the keys. It's having the keys, the sacred keys.
Yeah.
This is what opens and unlocks doors in situations. And that's why in all these decades of listening to people talk about their relationships and learning from them, is that having this one of these things that unlocks this happiness is when we have these renegotiations of setting the rules and boundaries, and that we're clear on it and we have a trust for it. But let's see what this spread says. I'll tell you what, from watching me and listening to me tonight, everybody, that I take the bottom of the deck and I call it the bottom line. And here we've got a success symbol. So, I could just leave it at that, Dana, if you want. And we can stay focused on that for you, or I can go on. But wait, we've also got a more happiness and celebration. You asked about something that does involve some hoisting of chalices and dancing. So I'd say yes. And again, it's like I feel like I'm on a game show. Do you want me to keep opening doors, or do you want to end with this? Because I'm kind of loving where it is. Uh-oh. You didn't stop me. We've got the Hierophant. I mean, not the Hierophant. God, we've had the Hierophant. We've got the Hermit. And the Hermit says, yeah, look, you've got this brilliant idea. So, yes, this is good. We've had great symbols saying yes. We've got great positivity flowing around this question. Thank you, Dana. Thank you for bringing this to us and these good vibes. But also that Hierophant jumping out and the Hermit say, there's still some stuff that probably needs to be talked about, Yeah. And I would wager to say it might have something to do with a passion of yours that maybe you haven't explored for a while, because that Queen of Wands in reverse could be an ally, could be a friend, it could be something that you love doing, but maybe you haven't been doing it as much. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier about not losing yourself in a relationship. And I've got the Two of Swords. We've seen this one come up tonight too. Boy, we've got a theme going tonight, Catherine.
I know, right?
A definite theme. More swords. So more communication, more looking, because that Two of Swords, it has a blindfold. So it's like there's some stuff we need to look at that's really foundational about moving forward into that. Remember what I said earlier, marriage is a financial agreement. When people get divorced, they don't yell at each other in court and scream and say, give me my love back, do they?
Right.
No.
They're always like,
They say, give
my
me
money.
my stuff back. Give me half of the value of things. So that's why I talk about a love union being renewed and renegotiated every year. And that, yes, that financial agreement's great if you want to do certain things, but be really wise. It's like investing in a business. So you want to be able to get into the business and out of the business if needed, comfortably, safely, and clearly with each other. So just a word of warning about that, because marriage does not equivocate love. If it did, you wouldn't fight. Oh, you would fight over love when you were leaving it, right?
So you're gonna laugh when you see some of the cards that came
There's
in.
more swords. I got Judgment, and I'm pulling one more. I actually, oh no, I'm sorry, Judgment was the last one. Yeah, there's these things to wake up. We've seen Judgment a few times tonight too. There are a few swords in this reading, and so I would just get a little more clear. Is there potential for it? We see the party. We see the celebration. We see that there needs to be a little bit more parameters, but maybe, hopefully, I've inspired you this evening so that you start to think of it of like, yeah, we need to make that handfasting, that love agreement, that blood of my blood and bone of my bones, and that needs to be renewed every year. That's what an anniversary is. But when you're going to incorporate property and holdings, and also because it depends on what your vows are, but we're talking about the legal binding bit that you're going to sign from a city hall or something, depending on where you live in the world. It's really important to think about that. Do we see the potential for it? Absolutely. But what I'm wanting you to hear me on is, please take some time to spell out the business agreement and think about keeping the love agreement going as a separate thing. Even as an astrologer, I've been known to choose different dates for different things, because sometimes my signing that contract is so good as a minister, is so good for them to have a financial agreement made at a certain day at time, that I've actually had couples do that with me. And then we just, you don't usually see the signing of the document at a wedding celebration anyway, or a ceremony. That's usually done in private off to the side if it's done that day. But then the handfasting or love ceremony could actually be that, or it could actually happen way before. I've had couples who have had 3 different dates for 3 different things to assure the well-being, and they were just very attuned to all of that astrological energy and wanted it that way. So that was my big input on that one.
So everybody also too, the reading list is closed, but also all of the instructions as to how to receive a reading are in the description box. So we'll just leave it at that for right now, but we aren't doing any more readings after we do this in Amy's. We've got one more after this, but funny enough, what I received, look at this, 6 of Wands, 3 of Cups coming through right away. Literally, like, that's crazy. Also got the Ace of Cups with the 4 of Wands. So if we're just going on your question itself, do we see marriage? I mean, it's coming through very, very, very strongly, Dana. I do feel this energy where it's like I talked about before. I do feel this energy where I feel that he is a little concerned because right now he is in rehab, but I feel like he's a little concerned about the future within himself, because I do feel a lot of insecurity, like just on psychically, I feel a lot of insecurity with him, that there is an energy being given that it's not that he doesn't trust himself as far as going through the rehab and what will happen afterwards, but there is a fear about it, and I think that that's a normal fear that anybody would probably have or go through completing, a treatment of some sort, right? And I do feel there will have to be an energy of encouragement, but not babying, that comes from you. It does feel like you guys are going to have a lot of things that you're going to have to discuss and talk about. But I honestly feel like now that you've gone through a lot, in the last few years together, like there's been so much, you guys have a really open energy with each other. And I feel like you can really surpass a lot of the little obstacles that might come up, a lot of the little, things, nuances that can happen within relationships. I'm actually really getting here that this is heading into a much stronger relationship than you guys have even had in the past. But I do feel that I'm just gonna answer your basic question. Do I feel marriage between the two of you? I really do. I mean, there's gonna have to be work. There's gonna have to be work, which is normal for any relationship, right? But I feel like you guys can really overcome these obstacles or these little things that, that can also happen within relationships. I really get this strongly. I do feel there needs to be a little bit of patience and understanding from your part, and from his part. I really feel that there needs to be more open-ended conversation, like where he, the vulnerability I feel needs to be there a little bit from him. And I hope that helps. So, and I just wanted to repeat again, even though I've said it several times, our reading list is closed. And we also have instructions as to how to receive the reading in the description box. So we're going to leave it at that. And that's about it. Namie is next. Dana, I hope that gave you some clarity. I feel really strongly that honey, I told you years ago. Dana, I told her years ago that I felt them being together. And so I love
they have been. Look how long they've been together. Yeah.
Yeah. And but at that time there was a lot of obstacles that were happening. And I love seeing, it's funny because sometimes when I do a reading for somebody, some people want to hear now, and is it going to be right now, this moment? And she says, we've been so much. Yeah, you have been. And I see a path, like it's like this long-term path. And
well, they've taken it together. They're learning and
they
growing and
really are.
evolving, and
Yeah,
that's everybody. This is what relationships are about. This is what it means to go through speed bumps, or
absolutely.
things that look like brick walls. Do you know what I mean? This is
No,
this is
relationships are
they're
again, they're not.
classrooms. They're full of lessons.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they're here because we have projected, other people come and reflect, and then it's our opportunity through that mirroring to grow and make choices or
yeah,
not to grow. And some people choose not to grow and make poor choices. This is human nature.
yeah. So we're just going to finish off with Amy's question. Before we go, I just wanted to remind everybody, if you want a personal reading with Ambika, you can contact her at ambikadevi.com. Also, check out her books. They're on her website as well. If you want a reading with me, you can contact me at Oracle Intuition. Also, we are both on the Purple Ocean or the Purple Garden app. If you
Purple
want
Garden,
to have a
yes.
reading with us there as well.
Yeah,
So
I'll be there tomorrow. That's a place to find us for shorter periods of time. But
yeah,
if
like
you
a
want to
5-minute
really
reading
dive
or
in with one of us, Catherine can get super, super deep. So can I. I'm an astrologer, so that's completely different from what I've been doing tonight.
yeah.
Uh, and if you want to learn a little astrology, I've got a blog that's got some great basic astrology in it. You can learn a lot from that and really get a good foundation and understand why I am not a zodiac shamer, because we have all the signs in us. So when you really want to cross compare charts, you've got to look at all 12 signs, all of the planets and how they
Mhm.
interact, not just sun signs or moon signs. It's everything when we're talking about relationships.
Absolutely. So Amy's question is, she says, did I do the right thing by cutting off by cutting my niece and my sister off? Do my spirit guides want me to know anything, because I've been receiving signs back to back more than usual? So she had a disagreement with her sister. She kind of cut off the energy, and she wants to know if that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, here we've got the card of going in the right direction. I think the holiday time, the end of the year, whether you celebrate any of the holidays that are the possibilities, if you're in the northern hemisphere, then it's getting darker and it's more introspective. And if you do come from a family that traditionally celebrated holidays, and you have gone through something like this where you've had to cut someone off because they're hurting you, and we can choose our friends but not our family, or can we? But we go through these experiences and it can be pain. So I want you to know it's okay to do that. And some of why you asked, very distinctly I heard, we have I have two relatives that talk to me. How about you?
I
Those,
have guides. My guides are
yeah.
actually they're one of them is hilarious. But because he's very he's very blunt, you know.
Oh, they tend
But
to be once they're talking from that side. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
it's really
my
funny.
grandmother and mother are like a unified council that I made a pact with my mother before, long before she died, that if she so chose, I would welcome her guidance from the other side. And
Right. She comes
she's
through.
she comes through loud and clear, even sometimes to Catherine when I'm around. But
True.
I will tell you that you put everything into it that you possibly could. We've seen this card tonight too, the Seven of Pentacles. That's the card of you put everything into it that you possibly could, or in the case of expectation, standing and watching, waiting for something to grow is not going to work. It's unfortunate because they can't focus on what's good in the relationship. So even though you're not in communication, when they come up in your mind, or the idea of them, or mind chatter happens. And a great way to cancel it out in this situation is to focus on what was good. There were some things that were good about it, but cancel out those negative thoughts, because I don't want them to turn back around on you. And I don't see that it's everlasting permanent, but sometimes we have to put people in timeout.
Yeah.
And sometimes timeout lasts the rest of a lifetime. Sometimes it happens for weeks, months, years. It's different in everybody's timeout situation. But I did get the card of timeout here. I'm reading it in reverse, that it's a little less. It's not like you took off for life or you pushed them away for life. That it's, for me, I'm feeling a little lesser from the card. And that, no, you don't have to talk to them right now. The Ace of Swords in reverse is a base. Guess who just popped up? The Hierophant. Has it been in every reading I've done? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But that's the recent past, and that's you setting these boundaries. They may not be accepting it. If you're catching communication from other people about them, just try to gracefully change the subject. It's you did the right thing. And I think if there's any guilt or confusion about it, no, because we also have a really happy card here, the Three of Cups. It's emotionally healing for you. Sometimes, like I said, we have to put people in timeout, and in the very near future, even through the darkness of solstice, I think that you're going to start feeling your energy return, and like you've got a more solid foothold on the earth. Interesting that the card of being shut out is in the base here of this reading. It's a bottom line. It's, you had to do this, to gain your power back and to gain your strength. But again, another symbol saying it's not necessarily for life. It's very much a timeout. Hopefully there's no concern about damage that you might have caused, if you've got that going through your mind, because I support you in it. Everything I'm seeing shows that it was a very good decision on your part. And then I'm just seeing if there's a major coming out for the final. Oh, cards just jumped. So no, it's just the card of you don't have to talk to them right now, and you don't have to look at it. So there's also at my website, everybody, I'd mentioned my blog and the a really good foundational astrology lesson there. But there's also one about a very, very powerful, we could call it an affirmation, we could call it a mantra, or we could call it a prayer. It doesn't matter, because really it is. I want you all to go read it, because it's going to teach you something that will cancel out negative thought or fear, whether you're making you've got to make a good decision, or in a situation like this where you just need some love and support from deep, from self, or from the spiritual realm, so that you can feel good about a decision maybe that you had to make was strong. So, Naomi, I totally support you on this.
So the thing is, Naomi, is what we have to remember within our relationships, even when it is with family, is that you can't. I mean, it's not an honest relationship when you're feeling like you're being pressured, or when you're feeling manipulated all the time. That's not a relationship. That's a control measure, and you can't, when you're feeling that, and especially on top of it. My biggest pet peeve, or one of my biggest pet peeves, is disrespect. It really is. You know, manners, lack of disrespect, lack of that, you know, I mean, I, one of my, one of the things that makes me really happy as a parent when I have people come up and say, your kids are so polite. They are so polite. And, you know, it doesn't mean that we're walking around, you know, being, um, accepting disrespect, right? But there is a form of politeness. And when somebody, especially a younger person, treats an adult with that disrespect, when it's not earned, or it's not, um there's no reason for it, okay? And she says a lot of disrespect, and I was just so done with it. She's shown this venom. Yeah.
So now this takes you to this next level, Naomi, where when the mind chatter starts happening and thought looping, it's very, very important to cancel that out so you don't get
Absolutely. Yeah.
stuck into a hamster wheel. That's why I recommended that article on my blog that I wrote, because that's going to just help you cleanse this off so effectively.
Some people just they're just really in a place of that they're so unhappy within themselves that they present this outward. But that, you know what? I don't give a shit. Sorry, I don't. Like, you know, that's your issue. It's not my issue. And I don't need to be a part of that issue, right? If you're unhappy with yourself, you're unhappy with your life, you're unhappy with whatever, that's your problem. It's not my problem to fix. And unfortunately, especially within the younger generation, we're seeing a lot more of this nonsense coming through. You know, it's like, I don't feel right within myself, and that's your problem. Fuck off. Excuse my language, but seriously, F off. No, but it is, right? Like, fix yourself. And
Well, that's a sense of privilege. You know, that's putting
yeah,
yourself on a pedestal. And when we have relationships, we have to ask ourselves, what am I bringing to the table?
right. And so what I'm basically saying here is, I feel like, did you do the right thing? You know, let's get to the basis of the question. 100%. You know,
Yes.
if being around this environment is hurtful or resentful to you, like if you feel like you know, if you're not enjoying your time with the person, if you feel like you have to walk on ice cubes, or glass, I should say, all the time, that's not an honest relationship. And you know, especially within family, like it's basically having a
Oh,
hierarchy within a family. And you know, and when you have that hierarchy behavior, and it's not coming from the parent, I guess, you know, because, but you can't, it's not being true, it's not being honest, it's not being open. It's just basically, it's like, it literally reminds me of somebody walking and having bugs that are trying to get out of the way. That's what it's like. You know what I mean? Like when somebody's walking, because that's the people that are doing the walking. If they're if that's their behavior, and it's rude, it's disrespectful. The people, they treat people like people are below them. And when
acting privileged. That's what I
right,
said. Yeah.
right. And she says, oh my God, I said the same thing. I have to walk on eggshells around them. And that's not the
No,
way,
that's not healthy. That's
that's
not
not how it
healthy.
should be. And especially when, you know, I know that you know, the American Thanksgiving's coming up, and we had talked about that. And, you know, if you're in that place, like, you don't even want these people there, because you're not going to be able to enjoy yourself.
It's about being grateful. And if they're not
Yeah,
something you're feeling grateful about, then that's toxic, you
100%.
know? But that's what's creating this question is these
Yeah,
holidays are coming up, creating stress. And there's a part of you that's a kind person that says, but you're family and there's unconditional love. But when people are crappy to you, you have to protect yourself and give yourself a cushion and give yourself permission to surround yourself with people who love you and lift you up and make you laugh and challenge you to be a better version of yourself. Now, they might be fooling you, trying to think, and tell you that they're making you a better version of yourself. So then you have to look in the mirror and decide, am I making good choices? But we resoundingly together, unified, agreed that it is a good idea that you give them this time out. So you've got to figure out how to navigate the holidays and the end of the year, still loving yourself and loving yourself even more.
Honestly, I think she's going to be fine. She's got a good family, her immediate family, and I think it's going to be really good. I feel like if she's ready, to come to you humbly and and even apologetically.
Yeah, well, some relatives, they don't apologize. And it's unfortunate. We could be really super kind people and have crappy things happen to us. Yeah. I once, my meditation teacher from many, many, many years ago, Bante, who we called Bante, he was once asked this by someone, because we would meditate and then we'd have like a question and answer time with him. And he was very wise. And somebody once asked him about that, and about like a crappy thing happening to somebody that just upset them. And they were just a witness of it. It wasn't a personal experience. And he said, well, sometimes really shitty things happen to nice people. It just happens. It is that fructification of karma. And this is why we must be very, very grateful for all the good things, because as the law of attraction teaches us, when we are focused on the good stuff that we want more of, we create more of that. So if we keep letting the mind drag us back and we don't learn how to tame the mind, then we are constantly being dragged back into the crap we don't want. That's why I like to teach people taming, mind taming, and meditation, because this helps us to back up and become a witness where we have that first reaction. It's for free. We're human. An animal gets startled, it reacts, right?
Yeah.
But then it moves about whatever it was doing. It might be a little more cautious, but we don't want to constantly re-react and get on this wheel of loop that we can't get off of. But this is our relationship as human beings with the mind. This is how our relationship with the mind works. Absolutely. And so we need to learn how to tame it and train it.
So, guys, I just want to thank everybody, for watching tonight. I want to thank Ambika for being on the show today. Remember, guys, if you do want a reading with Ambika, you can contact her at ambikadevi.com. It's right on the screen here. If you'd like a personal reading with me, contact me at oracleintuitions.com. We truly appreciate you guys being here. And thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again live on Wednesday. Hopefully, Ambika will be back with me again.
For sure.
We'd love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Bye-bye.